Well, Craig Thomson's speech to Parliament is certainly provoking a lot of reaction. The response of the crossbench MPs in particular will be crucial. And so now our political editor Lyndall Curtis is speaking with the independent MP Tony Windsor.
Tony Windsor, welcome to News 24.
Pleasure, Lena.
One of your fellow independents, Andrew Wilkie, says he thinks the Craig Thomson saga stinks, but his personal view is irrelevant. Mr Thomson is innocent until proven guilty, entitled to a fair hearing, and, quote, we must accord him the presumption of innocence no matter how much that grates. The opposition has been foreshadowing potential parliamentary action, raising the question of suspending Mr Thomson or another referral to the Privileges Committee. Do you agree with Andrew Wilkie, or do you agree with the opposition that there's potential for further parliamentary action?
Well, essentially with Andrew Wilkie, I'd agree that the presumption of innocence is paramount in our democratic processes as well as our legal processes. But if the opposition does have an issue in terms of privilege, which is outside the criminal and civil law activities, the judicial process, that's something that the Parliament or the Privileges Committee could in fact look at. So I'd be open to looking at that, but we'd have to hear what that particular issue here. But in general, I'd agree very much with what Andrew Wilkie has said.
So given Mr Thomson gave nearly an hour-long statement to Parliament today, is that... should the Parliament debate it, or should it not? Should it leave it at that and leave it up to any court processes to sort out?
Well, in terms of any definitive outcome, excuse me, I think it should be left up to the judicial processes. But I'd love a debate in Parliament. There's a number of things that I'd like to say in terms of this broader argument about standards, code of conduct, what we could do for the future. Does it require some legislative change or possibly even some constitutional change? Yeah, we have this odd circumstance at the moment where even if Mr Thomson has committed a civil offence, there is no boundary that he crosses that removes him from the Parliament. Maybe there should be in terms of some civil offences and maybe some other criminal offences as well. There's two offences at the moment: bankruptcy and jail for longer than 12 months. So a Parliament somewhere has made that line in the sand where you're automatically disqualified if either of those things, two things happen to you. Should there be more things? Should they involve some of the civil offences? I'd say maybe they should, but that's a debate that needs to be in the Parliament as well, and I'd encourage that debate to occur.
Is that a debate that can be held now, given it would likely involve discussion about Mr Thomson, which you say should be left to the courts, or is that a debate that should be had down the track?
Well, I think it's a debate that could occur within the building. I hope it does within the week. And it may well involve reference to Craig Thomson and Peter Slipper. They're the current ones that are before the Parliament. But it has to be, any reference to them has to be based on proof, not allegation. And that's the point I'm making. If some of the allegations that are out there, if Craig Thomson has committed a criminal offence, I don't know whether he has or he hasn't, what sort of offence would it be? If it was of that a specific nature, does it cross a line that means he would be automatically disqualified? Now, the Parliament can debate those things concurrently with any investigation that's taking place. That's not judging him. That's judging the current rules that we have. And if he's in breach of those rules, or anybody else is in breach of those rules, if they were so modified, well, so be it.
Do you think the Prime Minister did the right thing by having Mr Thomson suspended from the Labor Party? The opposition's now raising the question that why has the Prime Minister gone to that length but still relies on his vote in Parliament? Was it an acknowledgement of the damage it's doing to the Labor Party?
Oh, quite possibly. I'm not in the mind of the Prime Minister or the Labor Party, and I don't particularly want to be. That was a determination they made, and from a few things that Mr Thomson has said, I think it was probably something that he was going to do anyway. And there was always the option that he may well have decided that this was all getting too hard for him and his family, and leaving the building altogether was probably an option as well, and that's probably still an option further down the track. I'm not in his mind or the mind of the Prime Minister.
Given the amount of heat this has generated in Parliament, it's overshadowed the budget, which the government only brought down a fortnight ago. Can this Parliament operate properly until the next election, which is due September, October next year?
Well, I think we've got to make some decisions this week on these two issues that are out there. It'll be the opposition's agenda to try and keep this sort of the scandals going for as long as they possibly can, and to prevent any real work being done. And I've noticed it as a member. You know, we were back in the electorate last week. I was able to focus on real work for a week, but there were still these continual calls, particularly from the media, but some from the general public as well, saying, you know, we want to do something about these people. So I'd rather see us get back to genuine work. If there are offences committed outside the Parliament in terms of civil or criminal activity by anybody in the building, and that also refers to others, that things are happening in terms of other people as well, let it happen through the court system rather than, you know, become the continual debate of the Parliament day by day.
Do you think the public still has confidence in this Parliament?
Well, depending who you talk to, people have different views. Rightly or wrongly, that's our democratic process. You know, I didn't ask for a hung Parliament, but the Australian people did, and this is the Parliament. I don't quote the Prime Minister. I think she says this is the Parliament the Australian people voted for. Well, they'll get a chance to vote for another one at some time in the future, and they can make their own decisions then. We're trying to work with the Parliament that we've got. And I think there's been some excellent decisions made by this particular hung Parliament. There's some longer-term decisions that majority parliaments have always balked and walked away from. You know, the Murray-Darling issue, for instance, is one of them. Broadband, you know, some of the disability issues, and yeah, there's many other issues there as well that this Parliament is having a real go at. The climate change issue is the one that slipped my mind. I think that's a very significant long-term issue. I'm proud to be involved in that. I think there's a lot of good stories, and they'll come out as time goes on, rather than just the bleak big new tax thing that gets peddled around. The sky won't fall in on the 1st of July, and they're the sorts of issues that I've been proud to be involved in.